Welcome to my first ever podcast with a guest. And I said in last week's podcast, if you're going to think big. And if you're going to think big, think bigger. Well, I thought the biggest. And my first guest is the absolute king and expert in all of his fields. I'm not going to say field because you have so many, Dr. John Gray. He's the author of over 20 books, including the #1 best-selling book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And I'm just going to read a quote there. It was USA Today, wasn't it, who named it one of the most in the top 10, one of the most important books of the last quarter of a century, which is extraordinary. And it changed how millions and millions, if not billions, of men and women saw their relationship. Dr. John Gray now has a new book out, Beyond Mars and Venus, which is a guide, lovely, thank you, which is a guide for the younger generation in a world where our roles have very much changed, but our hormones haven't. So welcome, Dr. John Gray. Thank you so much for being here.
I think you summarized the book completely. The world has changed dramatically, but our bodies haven't. There's biology is biology.
That's right. So the first thing I'd like to ask you, John, is you have an amazing story. And I just have to know how you go from a monk to a sex therapist to a world-renowned relationship guru, really. I mean, that's the only way to describe you. It's one hell of a journey.
It is one hell of a journey. Well, after Woodstock, I got very high as a teenager and then crashed. And the Beatles had gone to India, and they said, that was 68. They said that you can get really high through meditation and you don't crash. And I said, that's for me. And I'm rather ambitious. So I ended up taking all of his classes for a couple of years. And then I ended up becoming his personal assistant.
His personal assistant?
Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. So he was the founder of the Transcendental Meditation movement, and then elevated eventually up to teaching his teacher training programs, helped develop it and so forth. And that was my life. I mean, I was a celibate monk, Hindu monk, and just meditation and service. Didn't think about money, didn't think about any of that stuff. But then at a certain point, I was 28 years old. It's a time when lots of people decide, now I'm going to be in charge of my life. And I didn't know it wasn't like somebody said that. I just felt like the attraction that I had to him was now sort of no longer, the magnetic pull wasn't there. It's like I needed to connect to somebody who was a world teacher, because inside of me, there was a seed to become a world teacher, but I didn't know what I was going to teach. But then I just had a dream. I just said, I'm just going to go out. I felt like I wanted to go out to California. I had some friends out there, and I had a dream, and it was of making love to a woman, which I hadn't had in a long time, celibate for 9 years. And then I stayed at this little retreat place, and the woman came into the kitchen. So then I asked her what she did. She asked me what I did. We were both the ex-assistants to big gurus. So then she warmed up to me very quickly. And I said, what do you do? She said, she's a massage therapist. And I said, and I offered a massage. I said, okay. And she said, you have to take off your clothes. And while I was lying on my stomach, she said to me, so why are you a celibate? And I didn't have enough. I forgot at that point why I was celibate. And then we made love for 3 days straight. I mean, it was breaks in between.
Amazing.
It was like making up for last time. And then, so I was like sold on this, and I was ready to come back out into the world, and traveled around, had many, many girlfriends over about a 1.5 year period, just traveling, because I didn't have enough money for a home or anything, but I had a car, and my parents had given me a credit card for gas. So that was kind of where I would stay, is I'd meet women and stay with them a couple of nights and move on. I'd read their palms. But it was
just holding up my palm, John.
Yes. So, but in the TM movement, I was a very celebrated person, being the personal assistant. And also they did a lot of research on my brain back in the 70s as a meditator, because I was an accomplished meditator back then, brain coherence and all that. So my picture was actually up in 3,600 TM centers. So people all knew me and thought I was a wonderful. Wow. So it was pretty easy just to have a conversation with them. And what I basically did is, lovely ladies, is told them I was making up for lost time. And before we do anything, I would love to hear from you what you really love about sex, what makes you feel good in sex and so forth, and what tips you would give me. And they were happy to teach me because they thought, oh, he's a celebrated guy. He's also a monk. And after about 1.5 years of that, I realized, hey, I didn't know any of this stuff. I mean, I was having sex as a teenager, but I didn't know it after hearing all these women. So that was my first seminars, because I'm a good teacher. I was a teacher for Maharishi, but now I was going to teach sex. And I said, look, I'm a monk, but I began talking to women and realized men generally don't know the inner workings of a woman's body and so forth, and how diverse it can be and so forth. So those were my first seminars. It was about people getting people together and leading people in a discussion about sex, making love, and various things. Then, in my own experience of then getting into a committed relationship and so forth, I realized that in order to have lasting passion in a relationship, you need to have good relationship skills, communication skills. And I then began teaching those, how to find forgiveness, how to open your heart, those kinds of things, better communication, healing the past so you can keep your heart open. Because what happened in my first marriage, I was married before my wife, Bonnie, of 34 years. That's the Men Are From Mars time for me. But the first couple of years was married to another woman. And we taught seminars together on just about relationship skills and sex. And I was shocked. Here I am. She's very pretty for me. And after 2 years, I'd be in bed with her and I wasn't turned on. I thought, what is going on? How could you not be turned on to a beautiful woman in bed when you're naked? It was like crazy. And that's where I started realizing that our relationship, I was no longer dominant with the male energy, and she was more on the male side, and I was more on the female side. And I began to teach classes on men and women and how we misunderstand each other. And now I can simply say, because I know people are listening, well, what do you mean by you being on the female side? When a man is on his female side, the priority is doing what he likes to do, what he enjoys doing. When a woman is on her male side, she's feeling, I have to do this. She's hyper responsible. And so she's stressed by that. And men will tend to go to the passive side, in a sense, just do what I like, have everybody do things for you. And I'm very good at that, but it weakened me. It made me more irritable, and I get defensive. And then I began to learn. And now fast forward to now, and I wrote this book on the biology of men and women, the hormones. When men are on their female side, their estrogen levels are higher and their testosterone levels are lower. Testosterone is the male hormone, estrogen is the female hormone. And what it was really stimulating when I read a research study on anger in men is not from testosterone. Most people think high testosterone men are getting angry. Actually, it's high estrogen in men. When a man's estrogen levels shoot up, his testosterone levels go down. They kind of like go against each other. And the reason we say testosterone is masculine is because a man, when he's stressed, whenever he's producing stress hormones, his testosterone levels are going down and his estrogen is going up. And when a man has well-being, his testosterone is about 10 to 20 times higher than a woman's. So that's the big difference. Men are testosterone. It's the fuel that allows us to stay in a state of well-being. And when our testosterone levels double, then we can fall in love with a woman and stay committed to her. That commitment stays, the arousal stays if your testosterone is high enough. And for women, their well-being is always consistent with about 10 times more estrogen than a man. And at certain parts of the month, she still needs estrogen, but she needs progesterone. And men have a completely different balance of hormones. So we can simplify it by saying that female hormones, when they're low, and that's always the case for women, their stress levels are up. And for men, when their testosterone is low, their stress levels are high, and their estrogen, the female hormone, is too high in them. They become irritable, passive, angry, defensive. That's fear. Fear is emotion. Happiness is emotion. Joy is emotion. Love is emotion. And all these emotions are estrogen in your body. That's what's going on. So now we can have a whole new way of looking at communication skills, and they're pretty much the same skills I taught in Men Are From Mars to explain why men and women show up differently. But we have this new problem which is as women are on their male side, they have a difficulty getting back to the female. And for men, they get over their female side. It's like they have magnets on their butt and they can't get up. They're doing what they like to do, but they forget about that. They're not motivated. So that's the whole thing in a nutshell. Then there's 1,000 communication techniques to teach men how to raise estrogen in women, and for women, how to raise testosterone in men. So you can create that passion that you experienced in the beginning.
That's very interesting. And you talk about stress there, and we live in the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. And I'm an EFT practitioner, so I'm one of those mad tappers.
Yeah. And I love tapping. I do tapping as well. I love it.
I didn't know that. It's a fantastic technique, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes.
And we have these healing peaks in the parasympathetic. And so a healing peak is, when you're stressed, we wake up with normal stress, and when we go down, then when we hit rock bottom, we have a healing peak. And, that could be where a cold becomes a flu, or a bad tummy becomes diarrhea. Even a heart attack is a healing peak. But my favorite one, and I have to ask you about that, is an orgasm. Now, an orgasm gives a lot of functions to the body. And I don't know if you had this in the US, but in the UK in 2020, we had these 5 o'clock health briefings every night by the Prime Minister and his team on how we were going to look after ourselves. And never once did they tell us that an orgasm was a healing peak, and it would release all these wonderful hormones and protect us. So I wondered if you'd like to take the government's role there, John.
Well,
and why this happens? Why?
Well, first of all, yes. If you look at what's going on in a woman's biology when she has an orgasm, is there literally whatever her baseline happy version of estrogen is. Like when you're feeling really happy and good, your estrogen levels goes up. And estrogen goes up when a woman feels, I can get what I need. I can depend on others. Like I have friends, I have a husband or a boyfriend, or I have a doctor, I've got a teacher, I got God, I can pray. Whenever you feel I'm not alone and I have a need, and I have support to get what I need, that will produce your estrogen. And when you have a romantic relationship, it will produce the highest level of estrogen in a woman. Literally, they can measure the estrogen levels in a woman's body when she orgasms. And when she orgasms, she has her basic baseline of being really happy. It will double and become 20 times higher than a man. That's a woman opening up an orgasm. And that's recharges her body, and also vaginal. We're talking about vaginal orgasm here. And when Masters and Johnson did the research on it, the clitoral orgasm is what most women are dependent upon in order to have a climax. So I'm going to call that a climax rather than an orgasm. Orgasm is when you have the penis goes in and stimulates the G spot. You warm her up, first of all, with kissing, touching, love talk, then breasts, nipples. It all just slowly goes down. See, women need a man's attention and affection to go from her head all the way down her body, down to the clit, and then to the vagina. So with the clit, in Taoism in China, now this is, I talk science, but then I'm going to throw in a little bit of ancient traditions as well. In the ancient traditions, they look at getting clitoral orgasm overstimulates the acupressure channels to the adrenal and the kidneys. So I
didn't know that.
Yeah, that's it. Well, again, it's not Western science, but I've studied Taoism in China for 10 years. I've studied Tantra in India for 20 years. So I go back and forth these things. Just, this is the lore, and this is how people practice it. And if you look at history, people used to live a long time, and you needed to make babies, of course. These men who would practice these advanced sex techniques that I teach, they would live several hundred years. So they had an army of children to protect them. Your objective, because there weren't police, there weren't governments, you had to have a lot of children to protect your possessions and your family and so forth. So they found ways for men to make a lot of babies, but you have to live a long time to do it, like hundreds of years. So this is all lore.
Really, hundreds of years?
Yes. It's very well known. And if people think that's extreme, look at the Bible. They talk about 200 to 300 years, the main players. This is how the world used to be. And one of the key factors for anti-aging, according to Taoism, of course, is various forms of spiritual practice. But the ultimate spiritual practice is to be able to be in love and raise your estrogen levels for a woman to the highest level. And this is the highest level she can go. And for a man, for his testosterone levels to go to their highest level. And that's making love. Now, that's when you're in a monogamous relationship and you're loving. Even if you can't get to the highest levels, we can talk about that later. But the typical orgasm for a man, prior to the orgasm, his testosterone levels go up at least 50%. They're shooting up higher. That's why marriage sex changes a lot, because in the beginning of a relationship or a new dating someone, and then you're having sex, the newness of the relationship stimulates high levels of dopamine. Dopamine goes up when there's new. Like if you go on a little romantic getaway somewhere new, usually your sex is more exciting because you're stimulating dopamine. And in women, dopamine raises their estrogen. And for men, increasing dopamine will raise your testosterone. But then we have what's called the 3-year itch or the 7-year itch. It changes. It used to be 7 years. Now it's about 3 years. Now for younger people, it could be a few dates and then they lose interest. But what happens is when newness goes away, you don't have that stimulation to raise your testosterone. So my work is how you keep your testosterone up in a relationship, how to keep the estrogen up in a relationship without the dopamine stimulation, because that will go away. That's why we become bored and, we feel comfortable in relationships. We become friends if we have good communication, but we don't have stimulation of estrogen. Behaviors and activities narrowly pointed at for a woman raise her estrogen up, and for a man narrowly pointed at raising his testosterone. Because what we see today, there's always been a passion going away, because most people had passion due to newness, and then they were happy to be content. In the days of, women often think, where are the romantic men like Romeo? Well, Romeo and Juliet, they died the day after they got married. If they had stayed married, the romance would have gone.
And they were only 16 or something.
Yes. It's just teenage hormones. And it will inevitably go away if we are people of previous generations. But today there's something magical in that women have the freedom and the motivation to express their male side. And if they can do that along with expressing their female side, then they will have the highest level of orgasm. See, it's being able to think about what I want and trusting someone to deliver what you want. Whenever you depend on someone for your pleasure, your happiness, your love, estrogen goes up. Whenever you are giving to someone to make their life better, you'll have the highest testosterone levels. Like my testosterone levels at 70 years old are 50% higher than when I was a young man. I do a lot of this, what I teach how to do that. But a big part of it is my work is selfless, and I always have my personal needs, but I just want to help the world. They say when you get older, you just want to give back. The men that are giving back will tend to have higher testosterone. But what we've got is a younger generation today. Just 20 years ago, the average male had 20% more testosterone than the average male today at 20 years old. So we're having a huge decline of testosterone in men, and a huge decline.
Is that partly because of the dopamine fix that kids are getting on computer games, on TikTok, on this kind of fast computer life? Is that affecting, raising their dopamine and therefore lowering their testosterone? Is that a problem?
Let me clarify it. Okay, those are all the right words, please. But let me put it in the right order. I wrote a whole book on this, which is on healing the brain, ADD. It's called Staying Focused in a Hyper World. And so I did all the research on brain science for this book, and I keep trying to simplify it down. So I hope to get it very simple. Now, I did this because 22 years ago, I had early stage Parkinson's. So I had to research the brain so I could heal the brain. And I did. I don't teach people how to do it. There's some videos where I tell people how to do it. There's some studies I refer them to where they've proven you can at least stop the progression of Parkinson's. And with certain supplements, you can go back. But I don't recommend it. I don't do it because I too have been canceled for giving supplement advice. Okay. So I used to have a health food store helping thousands of people, and the FDA just cut me off from my bank. People couldn't charge. And then, various things happen. So I just stay away from that. I stick to this, but there are some videos still on YouTube. But off of that, I studied the brain and I try to make it simple. And this is how it works. Use this as a metaphor for a moment. If you look into the sun, what happens to the pupils in your eye instantly? They constrict. Yeah. They constrict. And if you're in a dark room, they begin to expand. They open. Okay. So what the body will do is if you don't have enough stimulation, your body will open up to receive that stimulation. And if you have too much stimulation, then your body will close down and receive less light. So that's why your pupils get smaller. So your body's just saying this is too much. So we find balance to only let in so much. So now let's apply that to addictions. Addictions are all based upon dopamine. Dopamine's a reward, a motivator hormone. It's also a pleasure hormone, or neurotransmitter, if you want to call it that. So if something, let's say I'm bored in my life, what that means is I'm not getting enough stimulation to feel good. That's what dopamine does. You drink caffeine, you feel, okay, I'm ready to go. Take cocaine and you're just pumping out. Probably 60 to 80% of all TV writers are on cocaine. It really gets you into writing. Most of your writers were drug addicts in some way because it really motivates you throughout history. And, alcohol, which also for certain men, not all men, it will produce dopamine. For me, it doesn't. I don't have the gene that converts alcohol to dopamine. So I can never be addicted to alcohol. I could like it, but if I drink too much, I just get tired. But for some men, they get a lot of dopamine and they're really addicted to the pleasure and so forth. And maybe some women. This is actually just a gene that some people have and other people don't. But the point is, cocaine is a chemical substance that immediately triggers your brain to make a lot more dopamine. Kind of like when I discovered that I was the New York Times #1 bestseller, the first moment when it happened, that's a memorable moment, right? So my dopamine shot up, and I'm as happy as can be, right? So you can take a drug that will make your dopamine shoot up like you're the world's best-selling author. Temporarily. That's called high dopamine stimulation. All right. Now, as soon as that's like looking into the sun, dopamine receptor sites, they're like little buckets. Your brain makes dopamine and then it puts it in the bucket and you go, ooh, I feel good. And then it goes from that bucket to another one, to another one, and another one. And these little buckets holding the dopamine, they empty out and go to the next one and next one. And then finally it runs out. So you get this big dose of stimulation, those little buckets open up. But then as soon as it's too much, then the buckets begin to close down. And that's what happens. They measure this in the brain. If you took a shot of cocaine, you lose literally 30% of your buckets just closed down. Because if they really stayed wide open, you'd have a heart attack. You'd have so much stimulation. So your body, and I haven't read that part of it. Nobody's done that research. That's just me. When I used to drink 3 cups of coffee. No, when I didn't drink coffee, but it was my birthday, and I went to this very exciting Circus du Soleil show, which is always exciting. And it was my birthday, so I thought, I'll just get one of those big latte drinks, triple caffeine in it, whatever. And so I had all this dopamine stimulation. And then when they did the tricks, literally my heart was beating out of my chest.
You thought you're going to have a heart attack.
That's right. Like I have a heart attack. So the point being is your body will desensitize. And then the next day I was really bored and tired and whatever. It's like running a marathon. You're going to be exhausted the next day. So it overstimulates you. Your body reacts with understimulation, meaning the receptor sites will just close down. Now, for those who are listening who've done cocaine, it's not as dreary as I say, although I would never recommend it. It's just that once those receptor sites close down, if you treat yourself after that by doing something really boring and relaxing, like go into nature and camp out and do nothing, don't have any electric stimulation around you, maybe in a while, we don't know exactly, but at least 3 weeks of that or something. That's what a rehab center is, basically. It gives those receptor sets a chance to rise back up, and then life can be normally fulfilling. So if something makes you 30% higher than you normally are, you're going to always go down 30% where you started. That's the ups and downs of life. And so that's the ADD. If you look at your computer all the time, you're overstimulating. Anything digital overstimulates you. TikTok, for example, is massively addictive. And But the real big one, you ask why is this low testosterone in men? Certainly the ADD, which is desensitizing these receptor sites. So you could have a lot of stimulation, but your testosterone doesn't go so high anymore. After a while, it desensitizes. And that's why people are having so many males are having a trouble keeping their sexual interest for a partner. They lose their ability to commit. But the biggest one is porn. Porn is cocaine on your brain.
It's the mirror neurons going absolutely mental, isn't it?
Going crazy. I mean, your dopamine is up. So what happens then is, when I wrote the book on this, I hadn't been doing porn at all. So I went online, maybe as a teenager, I looked at Playboy, which was basically a woman in a bathing suit or underwear. That was, now we got the whole shebang, we're desensitized. That would do nothing for somebody. That's called desensitizing. If somebody wants to experience that, watch one of the movies, a black and white movie from the 30s, and you'll be bored to death. And yet everybody watching that at that time was so excited because they weren't used to this big screen, high stimulation. All that stuff does is desensitizes the brain to dopamine. So very quickly, dopamine, if it's high, will raise your testosterone. But it's the stimulation. So the receptor sites are so closed, you're not getting the benefit of dopamine. And so familiarity sets in, which is the opposite of stimulation. Your testosterone levels just don't automatically go up. So passion is lost. However, it's not the only thing that creates passion. If you look at what dopamine did in those situations, it raised estrogen in women and it raised testosterone in men. Well, I have a whole book, Beyond Mars and Venus, on how without stimulating high dopamine, you as men can create more testosterone and women can create more estrogen. And then when it gets above a certain point, a set point, then you can take it to the higher level of becoming orgasmic, which is, according to Masters and Johnson, if you're doing it with the right amount of foreplay and the right amount of time after some clitoral stimulation, then that lubricates. Then you go into the G spot, which rises up. It has a little erection inside. It comes out like a coin. And then beyond that is another spot that shows up, and that's the E spot. Each one of these are different orgasms for a woman. And then around the cervix is, moving around that area, the cervix will actually come down in a woman. And this was all photographed by Master and Johnson. I don't know how they did that. But the actual, when she hits the really high level of orgasm, the cervix comes down. And all of these things, according to the Taoists, are activating all of the acupressure channels in your body for health and wealth and happiness. See, this is all a feeling of abundance that you have it. That's the foundation of success. I wrote a book called How to Get What You Want and Want What You Have. If you want to be successful and be happy, you have to start with, I have it all. I'm abundant now and I want more. But wanting more from a lack of abundance either just makes you unhappy. You want to be happy with what you have, and you are happy with what you have. If you make love, it will last. There's like a glow that will last for quite a while. And then you have to recharge it. So we call it making love, because you make it more and more. Now, we're going to look at biology again. Biology, the Italians did a study, and they said that if you make love with your wife, different chemicals get produced than if you masturbate. Different chemicals get produced if you're having a one-night stand. Different chemicals get produced if you're paying for sex. Actually, your body responds differently to different kinds of sex. And go ahead.
Sorry, we're made up of energy. So, everything that happens to us is, there's that saying, everything is a memory or it's your imagination. So if you're paying for a hooker, you're taking on that energy. If you're, I'd love to talk to you a bit about energy, actually. I find it fascinating. And I was so lucky.
I did all about energy.
I did your energy meditation seminar in London, and it was just mind-blowing. I can't tell you how much I love that. So
let's do another one where we do energy meditation. I'll teach everybody that podcast, and that's a whole class in itself. Okay, this is
I would love that. Thank you.
But part of, for me, when you start, everybody listening is going to be thinking, let me finish on the Italians and we'll come to how do you increase testosterone and estrogen. Okay, so because it's all about flowing energy. but when it comes to the Italian research, what they found is when a man was making love in a monogamous relationship, after he climaxed, he ejaculated. And for people's comfort zones, I'll start calling ejaculation release. He releases, okay? People are a little uncomfortable with that word. So when he releases after making love with his wife, a hormone called prolactin gets produced. And prolactin is the monogamy hormone. Over time, if it builds up, if prolactin builds up, then you lose your addiction to looking for sex elsewhere. And this is the biology of evolution. Wouldn't evolution, if you have sex with your wife, want to have you stick with her so you can be there for the child? But if you're with a woman and you have sex and it's not going to be the woman of your life, the mother of your child, then evolution doesn't give you prolactin. It says, get out there and find a woman, have sex with, and make a baby, because that's the whole thing, is make babies so we go along. So all of this, porn basically does not produce prolactin, and prolactin's job is to keep you from wanting to have sex with others. That's what it does. So like, I'm 70 years old. I have a partner. My wife died 4 years ago, and now I've recovered and done a lot of healing, and I have a new partner. And I have no interest in other women, absolutely none. I have her, and it was the same thing with my wife, Bonnie. Over time, now when I was younger, there was still a woman would walk by, my eyes would go or whatever, and oh, that's hot and whatever. But now I might still look at a woman like a flower. I mean, my attention will go there, but there's no wanting at all. There's no comparing. There's nothing. It's just full on with my partner. And that's this glue. It's the bonding hormone. It's this prolactin, which women produce when they're nurturing. Now, what's interesting is all of estrogen. Well, that's enough on that. We were talking, but there's so much.
Sorry, I could listen to you forever. It's
no, but I want to have a conversation. So you're asking. Sorry.
Well, I was actually just when we were talking about energy, we kind of and
we're talking about as well the low testosterone levels in men. When men's testosterone levels are low, they cannot receive more energy. Now, let me give you an example of this. Since we're talking about men are from Mars, women are from Venus, I had written a book before. It's the one over here, which is really a good book called Men, Women, and Relationships. And then I thought I would make it better by writing Men are from Mars, make it more simple, faster to read. But that actually has more details in it. But I kind of wrote that book with everything I wanted to write that I'd learned over 10 years studying it. And then I simplified it down in Men are from Mars. And when I got it's a big, long story, but I'll just say that nobody wanted me at all. I couldn't get an agent, couldn't get a publisher. This is more self-published over here, but just self-published, it did 50,000. And somebody told my agent, an agent woman who had good connections, you really should take his book and sell it. You can sell it. And she called me up and she said, look, my friend says I should talk to you, but I really don't want to do this. I'm done with it. I want to retire. I'm not into this anymore. And I can't take on this relationship book. I specialize in others. And I said, okay. And a week later, she calls back, okay, I have to do it. And so she did an auction. She said, I can sell this book over here to New York publishers. Back then, New York publishers were very important. This is for 30 years ago or something. And so I remember when they did it, they had several houses were offering back and forth. There was an auction. That's it. It was going higher and higher and higher. And I remember she said we'd be lucky if we got $20,000, and it went up to $60,000. And literally, I couldn't receive anything more. But I was so excited. We were so excited. Oh my gosh, this. And then by the next day, it was like $140,000. And wow. I literally, this is back when that was a lot more money back then, 30 years ago. I could not have received anything more. I couldn't take that much energy into my body. And so it's what happens for people is when they're successful or when they're in love, that pulls more energy into their body. And then they go numb in the relationship because they can't take any more energy into their body. And because there's too much in their body, they go numb. And then to get energy flow back, they want to release that energy. And then there's room for more energy to come in. And that's called tantrums. That's called addictions. That's called yelling and screaming. It's like doing things that aren't good for you, is wasting your energy. For a man, it would be ejaculating. It'd be a woman, it would be using a vibrator. And you feel a little bit better afterwards, but you feel empty. You feel not so good. But then more energy can come in, but you still have your limit. So what we did in that energy meditation is learning how to open up and just let the energy in a smooth way come in with intention. And then there's the next level up, which I haven't yet taught. Maybe I can teach it in your next one. But just feeling the energy was just so amazing.
It was the energy in the room. I came out and I felt like I had my fingers in sockets. It was just like
electricity.
Yeah. Well, it is. This is what we are.
And so let me just say one thing. So in that moment where I saw the Sunday paper, and it was the first week that I was number one, it went on for 5 years, but number one. And when I saw that, what happened inside of me, which a switch that said, yes, now you can have what you want. I believed. See, you don't fully believe you're going to be number one and fully believe until you see it. Okay. It was there, but it was the belief that I deserve, I can have, I will have. That belief, that's where the mind comes into all of this, opened a switch that says, I deserve and I can have.
Absolutely. I did a very similar, obviously not a similar thing to you, but I self-published my book, which and I wrote it in 2020 out of just desperation that we weren't being told all the wonderful things that we can do to protect and heal ourselves.
Exactly.
And
quite frustrating, wasn't it?
Oh, it was. And I wrote and published in 2.5 months.
Yeah.
And I signed it off on December the 21st, 2020. And I had obviously, to write that book in 2.5 months, I was writing 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. And
you're like me. Yes, that's what I do.
And so I lay on the bed and I joined every collective consciousness that was going that day. And I self-published and I sent it into the publishers. And I said, can you get it out before Christmas? And they said, it's 2 weeks for us to get it up. I said, okay, can you talk to Amazon and ask them to put it up as a pre-order? And they just laughed and said, Amazon would never, ever put up a pre-order for a self-published first-time author. And also they do a different format and it's 2 weeks after us. So that's 4 weeks for Amazon. So I lay on the bed and I did every collective consciousness going. I did tapping. I did Soma breath work. I did didgeridoo, which was bloody marvelous. Yes. Never done that one before.
It's profound.
Oh, wow. And all I did was visualize my book on Amazon as a pre-order. And on Boxing Day, I couldn't resist anymore. And I had a little look on Amazon and there I was as a pre-order. And my publish date is the day I signed it off, December the 21st, the age of Aquarius. So it's extraordinary. I'm a bit of a shit hot manifestor, actually, John. That's why you're here.
You are.
It's amazing what you can do with your energy. So I'm surprised that you said that you didn't ever think you don't know that you're going to be number one.
I thought I would, but I'd been rejected so many times. You have to realize I started in late 70s teaching that men and women are different. And the climate at that time, which is part of why it was so powerful and still is because the society was going in the wrong direction. It was the beginning of this idea of gender neutrality, is that there aren't any differences between men and women. If you go to university, the teaching is that it's just social engineering has made men more masculine, women more feminine, as opposed to what I would say is the wisdom of the past did social engineering to support men in making testosterone and support women in making estrogen. There's nothing more powerful biologically for a woman to create estrogen and testosterone together. See, that's what we want, is we want to balance our male and female side, is when you're nurturing a child. Nurturing a child, your male side is giving and sacrificing, but your female side is getting support because you're getting massive doses of unconditional love. So the thing for women when they're not happy in relationships is, to summarize it in a simple statement, is often they feel I give more than I get. That's it. I give more than I get. It's kind of like I invested money and my stock went down. Of course, you feel wounded and hurt and everything. But the art of being feminine is the art of learning how to receive and learning how to motivate others to give you more. So you're a great receiver, because when you're receiving, you're happy, you're having fun, you're grateful, you're trusting, you're accepting of life's limitations, and you're appreciating what people do for you. That's your female side. So whenever those moments occur, you're making estrogen, which needs to at least be 10 times higher than a man's. And if ever you're not having those kind of feelings, your estrogen levels are lowering. And now we see all the hormone problems that women have, difficult periods, and then the menopause and all of that. Because literally, if you look at a woman's body when she is experiencing cortisol, the stress hormone, the sympathetic nervous system chronically on all the time, what's happening there biologically, her estrogen levels are low and she's making more testosterone than you normally would. She's on her male side solving problems. So any woman listening, what's a symptom when you're, one of the many symptoms when you're on your male side is you feel overwhelmed. You feel not enough time. Okay, it's not enough time. Go ahead.
Sorry, I think this is very, very relevant to what we've just gone through in the last 2.5 years, because the stress levels that have been put on the human race and the fear that everybody has felt. I mean, will we ever know the consequences of the last 2.5 years? I don't know. But could you just, fear is the biggest suppressor of the immune system. So could you just explain to us how that works, how it drives down the immune system?
Well, here's the challenge. The challenge is that if you're a woman and you're in fear, it's addictive. That's the problem. Okay. Is it produces dopamine. See, dopamine is produced by newness, but are having to make decisions of not knowing the outcome of something. And why does it produce dopamine in those situations? Because you don't know what the future will be. Anytime you make a decision, it may work or it may not. So biggest dopamine stimulator is fear. If you're being told over and over and over, you're going to die, you'll get addicted to negative. Your brain actually goes into a 10 times bias towards looking at problems rather than looking at the optimism and the solutions. So you're completely having one-sided. So our news during that time was completely one-sided, and you felt the frustration of, wait, folks, there's another thing you can do here. It's
try your breath work, try your tapping.
Yeah, do your tapping, do your breath work. And I'm all into all kinds of modalities. I have a lot of modalities that I talk about, but they're gender specific. Okay, so when you're in a relationship, for example, a woman and a man, you have a huge opportunity to use that man to come back to your female side. Just start with a simple experience of you're carrying a box and somebody offers to help you. Now that feels really good. Or for some women, when on their male side, they say, oh, I can do it myself. And they don't know what they're missing. Having somebody help you is a very feminine thing. Being able to ask for what you would like and want and get it is a very estrogen stimulating thing. If you look at therapists, I'm a therapist. I saw this in USA Today. 90% of the people who go to therapists are women. Because what do we do in therapy? We create a safe place, and women talk. We talk less, women talk. And by learning to be good listeners and helping guide her into her emotions, not all therapists know how to do that, but at least they let women talk. When a woman complains, basically, she's complaining about her life or complaining about herself. Complaining is addictive because for women, it produces estrogen. A big estrogen, but it's kind of like for a man doing porn. When you do porn, as soon as you have an erection, you're producing huge amounts of testosterone. But because it's fantasy and there's no love association, when your testosterone goes right back down. Now, for women, when they complain, their estrogen goes up, but then now they have more to complain about. It doesn't create optimism in terms of what are you going to do about this? How are you contributing to this problem? So with our Mars Venus coaches, for example, they have this training, which is particularly with women, we do gender specific coaching, but with a woman, you want to first help her talk about and bring her complaints into her body by feeling the emotions associated with it. Then once you move through the emotions, you go from negative to positive emotions. Then the last part of the session is accountability, teaching women how they're contributing to the problem. 90% of women, if you're having trouble in a marriage with a man, a relationship with a man, 90% of it is not, it's 100% is him, 100% is you. That's the way to look at it. But women usually don't see their part in it because they don't understand how different men are. If you complain to him, he'll do less. If you give him more, and then you try the other extreme, I'll just be so nice and give him when you're not really feeling it. Then a few years later, you feel I give more and I get less. I mean, think about the simple logic. If you give more, okay, this is a good one. If you're getting less and now you give more, and you're getting less and you keep giving more, you'll keep getting less.
Yeah.
There's a tool. When you're getting less, you have to first give to yourself so you feel good. Then you, without being demanding, you can now ask for help. But women often think, well, he should know. He should know. We don't know.
No, I know. But it's interesting you should say that, because there's and something you said earlier as well about women going into therapy and not liking themselves. You know, we live in this incredibly fast world where most of the things that we see are fake. You know, you can post happy pictures on social media and everybody thinks you're absolutely fine when you're feeling crap, and nobody recognizes that. And we see everybody, you know, people tend to post, oh, I'm on the beach on a really beautiful holiday and I'm looking good, and then you're at home going, I look shit, and you're not happy with yourself. And so there's this huge lack of self-love in the world now. You know, so many people just really don't love themselves. And you know, I have this exercise in the book, the first one, where you take a photograph and I say, if I asked you to tell me the 10 things you love most in the world, when would you mention yourself? And nobody does. So can you talk to us about, because you know, a lot of people think self-love is selfish, or you know, healthcare is, you know, self-care is healthcare. You know, how do you see self-love? How important is it to for your health and happiness?
Okay, here's a real short, and then we can talk about how to increase self-love. But when if you're hard on yourself, like my wife Bonnie, she was in the beginning was very hard on herself. One time we had tickets back in the day when you have paper tickets. You know, you have to have the ticket to get on the plane. You can't just get another one while you're there. And we were going on a little trip with the kids, and she left the tickets at home, and she found out, and she just, oh no, I did it. You see, she's really hard on herself. And she's one of these people who's so hard on themselves, they try really hard to be virtuous and good all the time. See, what's inside is a belief system that if I am not perfect, I don't deserve to be loved. I have to be perfect. I have to be better than to deserve to be loved, as opposed to I'm not perfect and I can always be better than, but I don't become better than from the place of I hate myself the way I am. So self-love comes about if you're raised with a message from your parents, it's okay to make mistakes. We all make mistakes. It's as simple as that. We all make mistakes, and it's okay to make mistakes. So that's loving yourself, is forgiving yourself for mistakes. It's a symptom of loving yourself. It's not how to get to love yourself, but it is a symptom. So
that's
if I'm
beautiful.
in a relationship,
that's so simple, it's so lovely.
Yeah. And if I'm in a relationship and my partner makes a mistake, then that same belief then they don't deserve to be loved. Then we start being upset with them because they're not perfect. So my children always, well, I'm the most easygoing guy. Okay. And whenever my kids would have something bad happen, I would always say to them, you know, same thing happened to me, or I did the same thing when I was a kid, because I never shamed them. I never disapproved of them. If they were out of control, I'd give them timeouts. That was it. I wrote a whole book on how to parent your children with a higher level of love. But one of the main messages in that book is it's okay to make mistakes. We don't try to make mistakes, but it's okay to make mistakes. And so if you feel inside yourself, it's okay for me to make mistakes, I still love myself, then it's okay for your partner to make mistakes. So when you're hard on your partner, it's because you're hard on yourself. And if you're hard on yourself, some women will be easy on their partner. That is a possibility. There's a lot of variations here, but we're only hard on ourselves because somewhere in the past, somebody was hard on us. And that's where we have
people hurt people.
Yeah. People hurt people.
Yeah.
So now how do we love ourselves? I have a different take on self-love. Okay. Which is how to do it. Now, certainly tapping helps. Okay. That's the affirmation part. I have a process, and I do it for women, or it's a little different for men, but with women, it's similar for men. It's just a different order because we have a male and a female side. If a man's upset, he needs to first address his male side, then go to his female side. And if a woman's upset, she must first go to her female side and then address her male side. It's a balance, and you'll see the logic of it as we flow with this. But this is a little bit of emotional intelligence, which is, and I love you could do this while you're tapping, or maybe tap afterwards, because once you do this little technique for 10 minutes, then you're affirming what's true. And tapping is a lot about affirming what's true. But if you really open up, you don't want to hide your negative emotions. You want to look at them and let them go. Look at them and let it go. Now, what I found, if somebody's angry and they just keep talking about anger, they'll stay stuck in anger. Usually in my audience, I say, anybody ever have an emotion and you just can't get out of it, a negative emotion, you're stuck there. And so many people do. That's called, if you're stuck in feeling grief, or you're stuck in feeling anger, or you're stuck in your feelings of fear, or you're stuck in your feelings of guilt. How do you get out of it? Well, for example, if you're feeling stuck in feeling guilty, you need to write out what you feel guilty about. Just be aware of it. Don't hide from it, but just write it out. Which seems like, oh, I'm making it worse by going into it. This is scary. No, feel what's there, become aware of it, give it a name, an emotion, and give it what's causing it, what you're saying inside to make you feel that way. Then shift the emotion. You can go from feeling guilty to feeling fear. You can go from fear to feeling disappointment and sad. You can go from that to feeling anger. You can go through these various emotions. There's 4 primary emotions that I have found create a catharsis where your brain will just let it go. But if you only feel one of them, your brain holds on to it. It's waiting for you to see the whole picture. So it's kind of like, if I'm upset with my wife, I would first become quiet, rebuild my testosterone. Silence builds testosterone for men. And I would, and other things do as well. We can talk more about that. But I will first feel good. You have to do something as a man when you're upset. You first have to raise your testosterone, because if you raise your testosterone and you're a man, you'll feel good. And when you feel good, then you're basically able to go over to your female side and let go of it very easily. And you can do this through analysis. You can do it through processing emotions. But the analysis is just simply, what just happened that didn't work? And what would have worked? It's a real simple thing. Just what happened. Most of us just fixate on what went wrong. But if it's real simple to shift from, well, what happened and what didn't happen that would have made it better. And since we all tend to become blaming of each other when we're upset, we get stuck in that victim place. You start out, if you're a man, you write out, or you mentally look at, okay, what just happened? What did she say or do that I don't like? Okay, that didn't work. And what could she have said and done that would have worked? So you're looking at those 2 sides. And then now you look at yourself. It's very easy then, well, what did I do and say that didn't work? And what could I have said? Now, that last step of what would have worked, that's why these books help so much, because there's at least 100 insights in there on doing something that would make it work that most people are not aware of. For example, if a woman is upset and now you're arguing, it's a man's fault, because all he had to do is listen and not speak. You can't have an ongoing argument if one person doesn't speak. And so what he could do is not only just not escalate the argument by telling her, you shouldn't feel that way. You're overreacting to this. Why don't you just forget it? It's not a big deal. That didn't happen. You're looking at the wrong way. Well, that's not what I meant when I said that. You see, we defend. That's a normal reaction. We are warriors, right? We defend for women. But if a woman is upset with us, we go right into this defensive reaction where we want to make her feel better by telling her she shouldn't feel what she feels. And even if she's talking about things that happen in her life, we want to tell her, oh, don't worry about that. You could just do that. And that's called solving problems. The biggest mistake we make when our wives are feeling emotional or not so happy with us, or not so happy in their lives, is we want to come in and give them advice, and they're not yet asking for our advice. And sometimes they don't want our advice. They just want to talk it out. Because here's what happens. When a woman can talk about what's going on inside of her when she's stressed, her estrogen levels will go up. And then she will feel really good. However, if she's talking about what's going on inside in order to change somebody, she's creating more wiring in her brain to look at the negative rather than the positive. Let me say it again. If she's that's a complaint. See, a complaint is, I'm upset about something and I'm going to tell you, and in my mind, you should do something about it. That's like in a restaurant. If the food's not good, you say, I want to speak to the manager. The soup was cold. And what you're expecting is to get some warm soup and a free drink. Okay. That's the intention that's complaining. Sharing is another estrogen producer, just to share your feelings with a friend without intention to change them. So maybe you're at the table and you're just saying, the soup is not so good. What about yours? And she might say, oh, I have a different soup recipe. And yeah, much better. And you could go into a whole discussion about how bad soup is or what are good restaurants. And the whole thing is a big discussion about good and bad. You're going to be producing a lot of estrogen. But as soon as you call the waiter over, you're now wanting to produce a result, get somebody to change. That's producing testosterone. And that then you got a surge of estrogen and then it comes back down because you want to use your negativity to solve a problem. Same thing for men when they masturbate. Their testosterone goes up and they deplete themselves of life force energy.
Yes.
And that's back to your theme, which is energy. My energy is boundless energy because I've learned how to make love and I never ejaculate, maybe occasionally. I have many, many orgasms. That's an advanced state. But there's a thing that every man can do to keep his energy super high and not have it go down. Right now, statistically, and this is a new thing, every year for every age category in men, their testosterone levels on average go down 1%, down 1%, down 1%. And the average 50-year-old man has half the testosterone he had when he was young. And I'm over here with...
Sorry to interrupt. Do you actually think, though, that this is, I believe very much that we're being poisoned by very toxic food and glyphosate and things like that. And we know, yes, over 70% of the immune system is in the gut, and our guts are being hammered by completely toxic food, yes. That's designed to toxic be addictive.
Food. Okay. So toxic meat. Okay. They're adding hormones to your meat. You're getting hormone injections, basically, if you eat cheap meat. It has to be hormone free. It also has to be, what is it called? I don't know the right word for it right now, but it's in a positive way. They kill the animal. They don't scare, the traditional animals, when they go in, they're all producing adrenaline, and that's a chemical. So you're getting adrenaline and cortisol.
Oh God, I'd never thought of that. Meat. I don't eat meat, so I'd never really thought of that.
No, but you're just eating that. But there are sustained, they're organic and meats that do exist, and they don't have all the negative side effects of meat, because a lot of books now have written how bad meat is for people, but they're talking about those
factory
meats,
farming,
not factory farming, not other meats. And so there's a place. I used to be vegetarian for 9 years. And for me personally, when I started eating meat again, good meat, it's like I became stronger. Okay. And I felt more, my self-esteem went up. I was more confident. I was more powerful. It was a big testosterone producer for me than just being a vegetarian. I'm not promoting any diet. I think you have to find the right diet for you.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's one diet for everybody. So that was
sorry, in Ayurvedic medicine, Ayurvedic grandmother, you've got your different doshas, and we are all so different. And we're
all so different. You need to follow your heart. And what I find is you'll naturally be drawn, when your hormones are in balance, you'll naturally be drawn to healthy foods for you. But when your hormones are out of balance, and this is why I keep coming back to finding the balance, once they're out of balance, we tend to desire things that will push us further out of balance. For example, sugar cravings. People have lots of sugar cravings. Basically, if you follow your feelings, see, I feel like I want more ice cream. And so, it's what I feel, so it must be good. No, just because you feel something makes you feel good doesn't mean it's good for you. Okay. And that's my big obstacle when I'm teaching women how to come home and talk to their husbands about what you're feeling from the day and not what you're feeling about him.
A lot of my audience won't have husbands or wives.
They do, so yes.
My TikTok audience. So I just kind of would like just to address to them as well emotional eating. And whether you're going back
because
to
when you eat food, estrogen goes up. Okay, so it becomes anything that produces estrogen in a woman can be addictive. And so basically, and men get addicted to porn and anything that raises their testosterone high that they're not generating by healthy ways. So there's ways to make testosterone and then it goes lower. There's ways to make estrogen and then it goes lower. Eating is another estrogen stimulator. Masturbation for women is a massive, this is terrible, but what the Taoists say is if you masturbate your clitoris, if you're a woman all by yourself, you will overstimulate your kidneys, meridians, and then you'll gain weight. This is for every woman to know. Throw away those vibrators. You don't need to have sex with a robot. Find a man.
I haven't gained weight. Sorry.
No, but you're very lucky. Different biologies, but that's theirs. But you do a lot of energy work, you see, to keep your energy up.
I do. Yeah.
But they're looking at optimization. And then we go back to a study in Japan where they studied men in ejaculation or release. And the men who were having sex just on Saturday night, okay, they had sex on Saturday night. What they found, if you can go in a man for 6 days without the release, on the 7th day, your testosterone increases 50%. And everybody hungers to have that wonderful, fresh feeling you had in the beginning when there was all that dopamine. So this is how you can create a lot of testosterone in a man without depending on dopamine. It's your wife of 20 years. There's nothing new about that. So what's going to produce the dopamine? Well, just abstain from sex for 6 days and see, people go, oh, no, I want to do more sex. I get it. And just try it. Bring back the passion. And maybe some days, if I'm in some place that's new and different, you don't care. You're naturally feeling all sexy and everything. But there's kind of a routine that couples get into where they have sex on Saturday and sex on Tuesday or Wednesday, the twice a week routine. And what they found is if you do this twice a week routine, your testosterone levels never increase 50%. So what you're getting is more routine making love, routine sex. It just does. It's not amazingly emotional and fulfilling as it was in the beginning. Now, in my experience,
it's a very hard world we live in for young people today because, especially the fact that everywhere was closed down for 2 years. And so everything's on dating apps, and it's a really tough world for the youth to navigate, I think.
They just need teachers. They need people to teach them and guide them. They don't have anybody understanding this. One of the best books anybody should read when they're young is Think and Grow Rich. Have you read that book?
I haven't, no.
It's the most popular success book in America. There's a few others from 40 years ago or 100, I don't know, maybe 100 years ago, whatever, called Think and Grow Rich. And in there, he interviews Napoleon Hill. He interviews all of the most successful men in America, the men who really led the way and built America into what it is today, or used to be.
Used to be. I think we'll just put that in.
These were the great men. And it's all about men, because at that time it was that men were on their male side, women were more on their female side, and focus more on their children, their home, and charity, and supporting the community and all that. Those are all very estrogen stimulating activities. But now the ecstasy comes when your testosterone and your estrogen are shooting up high together. That's what we're looking for, is balance. And we can do that once they have more freedom. The more freedom we have, the more access we have to both sides. But if you only go to one side, it's like tipping out of balance. At a certain point, you fall down. That's when you're addicted to that side. And so to go back to the other side does not feel natural. It takes willpower, just like to give up a sugar addiction. It takes willpower. Doesn't feel good to do it. You've got to go through the process of retraining your brain to come back and activate your female side, which is the right anterior parietal lobe, which for every woman, and when she's born, is bigger than her left. And for every man, his left parietal lobe is bigger than the right. There are biological differences. And when you do things that make testosterone, blood flows to the left parietal lobe. And when you do things that make estrogen, the blood flows to the right. We're designed to be this way. But it doesn't mean a woman can't use her left side. It just means to produce female hormones, she needs to use her right side. And for a man to produce male hormones, he needs to produce his left side. And we know very simple science. This is also basic and simple. It's irrefutable. People, it was just my ideas before, and people could say, oh, that's just old-fashioned thinking. So, okay, you can do that. Although none of my ideas have ever been old-fashioned thinking, but integrating old with the new, the new.
And I think that's the way forward. We have to, we live in a very confusing world where so many people are out of balance, and that doesn't mean that, I'm not judging anybody in any shape or form, but we do need to find, I think, as we go forward over the next couple of years, some kind of balance and peace, self-love. And a rebuilding of communities to take that forward.
So beautifully said. And this example, remember I was going to mention self-love. So my thing was, one is how to process your feeling, how to listen to your feelings as a woman rather than suppress them. That is form of self-love. Just like if a child was crying, you would take the time to listen to it. Most women don't even know that it's even in there, because as Freud would say, we suppress, and it builds up and it builds up. And then it gets projected onto ourselves, or we don't like ourselves, or get projected onto our partners and we don't like them. We overreact to them and we overreact to ourselves, when every day there's an accumulation of stress. See, it's like, this is upsetting and this is upsetting and this is upsetting and this is upsetting. But we just keep saying there's nothing I can do about it. See, when there's nothing you can do about it, you just kind of go suppress it. There's nothing I can do about it, so don't do anything about it. So you stop feeling anything. You numb, you go numb, you go numb. But then you get in a relationship with your partner and you feel, I can do something about it. I can complain. I can tell them they're doing it wrong. I can give them advice. Men are giving women advice, telling you how to be, and women are giving men advice, or whatever.
I'm sure there were a lot of people screaming at their telly at the news in the last couple of years, giving them advice.
Yes, both you and me too.
John, we are out of time. I could talk to you all day and all night. It's night now over in the UK. That has just been amazing. Thank you so much. And please, I do hope you'll come back on and we can do the meditation, the collective consciousness.
We'll do the meditation. Philly, can I just have 5 minutes more? Because I know we're ending.
Absolutely.
I want to finish up some points I didn't finish.
Yep. Sorry.
So how do men make testosterone? Whenever a man is doing something that he's competent at, that he's challenged and he's competent at, he produces testosterone. If it's something that's meaningful to others, then he produces more testosterone. And so when he does that, he goes to work. And if he's well paid for his job, he produces more testosterone, because when you get paid, you feel my work was meaningful. You can see the results. I just finished a 2-day workshop and everybody gave me a standing ovation and told me how great the whole workshop was. So I'm on a high from that. Testosterone goes up whenever a man feels successful. Now, women's testosterone goes up when they feel successful, but women don't need testosterone in order to feel well-being. They need more female hormones. And testosterone and estrogen tend to go, if testosterone goes up, estrogen goes down. If testosterone goes down, estrogen goes up, unless we consciously do things to find that balance. So when a man is upset, first thing he needs to do is stop talking and go do something he's competent at. Because anytime a man is upset, his estrogen levels are too high. If a man is arguing, his estrogen levels are too high. He's now talking from his conditioned brain. He's not using his prefrontal cortex to do what works and what he's learned to work. But see, people have to be taught what works. Right now, therapy is just teaching everybody to express how they feel. You need to express how you feel. No, you need to listen to your feelings inside and then let them go and come from a place of love and then communicate with your partner. But if you have a fight or flight reaction while communicating, nothing will get done. It will just escalate up. So for women, it's learning how to share what's inside in a way, in a language that a man doesn't get defensive, because he'll take it as criticism when you want to say, oh, when you did this, it upset me and it hurt my feelings. One of the most destructive phrases ever spoken is, it hurts me when you do this. You hurt me. I know you feel hurt, but remember, when you're feeling hurt, you're 6 years old at that point. And I remember at 6 years old, my mother telling me, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words cannot harm me. That's self-esteem. And we need to have self-esteem where we don't be so affected by other people that we feel like victims. And we tell them, you're victimizing me. What is a man to do? He's going to defend. He will become defensive. You're basically, in China, Confucius said, to take offense is to offend. And what you're doing is to take offense is saying, you hurt me. That is hurting the other person, and men will defend. So there's other ways to communicate this. We have to learn different ways to do it. And we have to realize we have a childlike part of us, we have an animal part of us, and we have an adult part of us. We have to learn how to communicate. So if you're upset at your partner, feeling hurt, you're not in present time. That's your past talking through you. So what you do is you have to learn to teach him that by listening to you, you will feel better without his solutions. Men don't think that far. We haven't been taught that. If there's a fire, I solve it and put it out right away. His every instinct is to solve the problem or defend against attack. So what he has to do is learn how to listen. Here's 3 tips for listening for the men. When your wife is talking, help me understand that better. Tell me more. What else? These are phrases you can say again and again because the more she talks, the more her estrogen levels are going to go up, her stress level is going to go down, and she's going to bond. And your testosterone, because you helped her and you're competent at not saying anything, is going to go up, because men just make it worse. And then when men are getting angry and whatever, women don't understand that he shouldn't talk at that time. But what women unknowingly do, because they think we're all the same, is if you ask me questions and I talk, I'll feel better, says woman. But so when a man is angry, she says, well, tell me more and help me understand that better and why, and just makes his anger go up more. We have to have timeouts. Timeout is so, so important. So if you have an angry man, women, you have to have a safe word. I recommend a safe word, which is you're being mean, is a good one, and walk out of the room. Don't say, don't talk to me that way, or why would you talk to me that way, or you shouldn't talk to me. That's trying to control him. All you do with a safe word is just say, you're being mean, because he is. Anytime somebody's angry, they're being mean. That's it, because you don't want him to be angry with you. So you're being mean. So have a conversation. That's your safe word. And then you walk out of the room. And a man should have a safe
very good
word.
Advice. Yeah.
Very good advice. We'd never have all these crazy problems and fights if people just follow that one piece of advice. If somebody's angry, if it's a man angry, immediately a woman has to walk away. Or if a man notices he's getting angry, he should stop and say, I need to think about this, and go to his cave. The cave is a big idea that I write about in Men Are From Mars. And now we understand why going to the cave is so good for men, is that when a man stops relating with his partner in a personal way, that's estrogen stimulating. He does something impersonal, or he simply just forgets temporarily what happened. That's what meditation is. That's why I'm a master of this. I'm a master meditator. So I can forget everything and just go into a state of unbounded awareness, like we felt together, just the energy, just it's fantastic. So he needs to go away, time out, do something to raise his testosterone, then take time to reflect, then analyze what happened. Analysis also produces testosterone, where she needs to go and share with somebody whatever she's going through, or with herself is even better, through journaling. And then she's listening to herself and she's emoting, which is both her male and female side. Come back to a place of open-hearted love, and then come back together. And when a man comes back from being in his cave, good little signals. I would always just sort of stroke my wife's hair and offer to do something. And then she knows, okay, the dragon's not here. And one time it changed our marriage dramatically when I took my cave time, and I did it as best I can. I said, look, I need to think about this, and walk away. As opposed to, look, this is full of shit, I'm not going to listen to this anymore. That's the dragon inside. Be nice, learn your phrases, and then go off and change your hormones rather than, think about what just happened. If you're a man, temporarily forget it. And that's what meditation is. Distract yourself, go play golf, go do anything, depending upon what talents and achievements, rebuild your car in the garage, whatever it is, to forget the personal side of your life. Then come back to it when your heart is open. These are such powerful, powerful tools. And if you don't understand men and women are different, a woman will just think, oh, are you hurt? Every man will, yeah, I got a female side. And men are too far on their female side. She'll argue and he'll argue back. She'll complain and he'll complain back. That's your mirror cells. We're like monkeys. Monkey see, monkey do. We need to get out of that. We need to become adults and come up with how to communicate to a man, and I'll be done. How to communicate to a man so he'll listen. Start becoming aware of other things in the day that you can't change, really. So you suppress it. And instead, things are frustrating, things are disappointing, things are concerns and worries, things are embarrassing. And embarrassment is the most powerful emotion to get a man's attention. And you just say, I just want to talk about today for about 10 minutes. And you don't have to say anything. You don't have to do anything. I just need to do kind of a emotional inventory and share what's going on, because I love you so much. I want you to be connected with me. And then you'll see I'll be able to come back to all my positive feelings. So frustrations, disappointments, concerns, embarrassment. And then you shift in what I'm grateful for, what I'm happy, what makes me happy. I'm happy I get to. And then I'm excited about. That's where you think about the things you're looking forward to. And then I'm proud of. Those 4 positive emotions that balance the 4 negative emotions about things that have nothing to do with him. And he'll begin to connect with you in a way you've never felt before, because he's not feeling blamed. He's not feeling threatened. He's not feeling he has to change. But all he has to do is nothing except listen to you and occasionally say, help me understand that better. And what else? What an amazing tool it is. And then men start learning how to listen. See, I'm a therapist. I got paid for doing this. So I learned how to do this. Men are not being paid for it. One woman said to me, "Why are you such a good listener? My husband married me. He can't listen to me like you." And I say 3 reasons. 1, you're not complaining about me. Otherwise, I'd say find another therapist. 2, it's only 50 minutes a week. 3, you pay me. How do you pay a man? Just tell him, thank you so much. Go for the hug. It's so good to have you listen to me. I love you so much. And then ignore him for a while. He'll feel, what did I just do? I just listened and she felt better. She was feeling negative. Because if women can start learning how to share their negative side without trying to change their partner, but to change themselves, to let him in. So you see, it's the man who penetrates the woman. If the woman is too much penetrating the man and all his feelings, the man penetrates a woman. That's natural. If you penetrate a man, what you get is an asshole.
Yeah, that's very true.
My latest joke. I like that one.
No, I love that.
We're not designed. Okay, all right.
That's really good. We are out of time. I'm so sorry. As I said,
it was a great conversation. Philly,
I could listen to you all night. Yeah. Please come back.
Yeah, happy to.
I would love to do the meditation with you. I also, and I'm just going to mention very briefly, and we don't have time to go into it, but one of the first interviews I ever saw with you was on your remarkable work with autism. And I would love to do a podcast with you on that, because what you discovered, I thought was extremely profound, and I think very much pushed under the rug, because obviously you had to, but your work in that is extraordinary. But for now, I just thank you so much. I know you have a gift for everybody viewing or listening to this. So if you go to your webpage, you have a lovely, lovely gift. So would you like to tell the audience what you have for them?
If you go to marsvenus.com, or just say Mars Venus, search my name and it will come up. But marsvenus.com/gift. It's a free seminar that was written by my daughter and I, and we send you emails with quizzes and information and some video and so forth. And it's how to get everything you want in your relationships. And there's 4 different courses, one for single men, one for single women, one for married men or in a relationship men, and one for women in a relationship. So whatever stage of relationship you're in and your gender, you'll get a specific message for you in that.
And we'll put the link for that in the show notes for the podcast, so that they can find you. And I'd just say, go and have a look at Dr. John Gray's webpage. There is so much, your generosity in giving out to people. It is fantastic, and I'm a massive fan of your work, as you know. And so
thank you.
So for now, thank you very much, Dr. John Gray, for being my first podcast guest.
My honor.
Bless you.
Thank
you. Oh my goodness. I was so scared, John. That's my first interview.
You did great. Would you like some tips?
Yes, please.
Okay. You were absolutely fantastic. And I'm a really hard person to interview because I talk so much. But you interrupted me 3 or 4 times. And that's what you have to do when you get somebody who can talk. One of the things is when people are not good speakers, then you have to, and I am, but for me, you have to interrupt and you have to ask a question relevant to what they're saying, or say, yes, that's true, and give your own sort of reflection of that. Okay. So, and you gave your own experience. You want a podcast where people want to hear what you say, and they want to hear me, but you want to grow your podcast by and everything you said was your intelligence. You said, oh, that's about energy, and you did this and you did that. You want to keep coming back to your expertise when they're talking. So you interrupt them and then you share something. Oh, so what you're saying is this and this, and what I know to be the case in my life or in my experience or what somebody else teaches. You bring something to it. And I know it's hard because everything I say is completely new and different, and it just sort of flows out.
And also for me, it comes back to this kind of not feeling enough, because I know a fraction of you. I'm just a mad middle-aged woman on a mission to kind of share my story of how I healed. I'm not an expert like you, so I don't like to interrupt. You know what I mean?
But it's simply, even you were smiling and you were saying this is so wonderful. Those are the people they want to have a response to that expert or whoever it is. Their response, they're looking how to respond, and your response is what gives it to them. So you were smiling throughout and occasionally interrupting, but just giving you support and confidence that you can interrupt people and you can say something, and your listeners want to hear you, and who you are is what they're coming to. Just your experience of healing and so forth. It's very important. So you did basically a job. A+ would have been a few more interruptions. That's all.
Okay. I really didn't like to. I felt really bad every time I interrupted you.
I know. I'm a hard interview, I tell you.
No, because I kept saying sorry.
I know. Hold. And you can say, hold on. That's brilliant. Or hold on. If it's a woman, you go, okay, hold on. I want to understand that better. Tell me more about that. Okay. You just gave relevance to what that person said. So it was, and with a more of a man, and you can do both with men or women, but it's like, well, now that makes good sense. I can really relate to that. So there's for the male side of what men need to hear the most is, that's a really good idea. That makes sense. And the other one is, well, you're right about that. That's been my experience. So you're over there evaluating, you're giving your audience to feel like you're going to help them know how to respond to what the person says. Like at one point you said, we don't want to judge anybody. We want, very important thing you said, because some people will feel judged if I'm talking about men are this way, usually I'll say, but I don't always, I say, many women read my book and they feel like they're from Mars and their husbands are from Venus, so that's a nice thing I sometimes do. But you said, now we're not judging anybody, because your response regulates their response to the person. Like I watch Gutfeld all the time, and I just love the black man on there. He's a world famous wrestler. He's a different type of person from me. So I love his response. He's going to respond to something differently than I would, and guide and expand my awareness. And that's what you have to know as a listener. You're listening for all your people, and it's your response that allows them to feel like that was a great talk. Oh, that's really relevant. And otherwise, they don't know how to respond. Really, they're in it. When somebody's watching somebody for 30 minutes or an hour or whatever, they're in a state of theta, and they're being hypnotized. So you want to hypnotize them how to respond to the speaker, and also you want to hypnotize them to come back to your podcast, which is, that's an amazing idea. I would have never thought of that. And, for me, what I do as well, and you brought in the tapping, and then I supported that with, it's a good affirmation technique. So the Joe Rogan is so good at this. He's the master of it. He asks good questions, and then he always comes in with his own, brings in some of his own experience and his own response. And why I like him, and I think why so many people like him, is that his life experience is so different from everybody else. He's a TV star, wrestler. He deals with all those guys. He deals with hunting. And so you're always going to hear a point of view that you don't, because I don't hunt anymore. I did as a kid. But so his perspective is going to be different from mine. And it's a positive response. And I can find myself into him that way. But it's new and different, because people should experience new and different in the guests, but also they need new and different from you, because then they come to you. And anyway, those are some thoughts. Is that helpful?
That is very, very helpful. Thank you.
I thought you were wonderful.
I mean, what a hell of a first interview to be talking to you. I can't believe it. But like I said, I am a shit hot manifester. You
are an amazing manifester. I certainly haven't gotten 1 million views on my TikToks. So amazing.
Yeah. They're going to make me pay for it, though, aren't they? They're going to stop me getting information out again. Now, I've got to ask you one more question.
I was canceled in the year 2000.
I know.
I've never been allowed on national TV since 2000.
You've never been back on national TV since 2000?
I was on every show.
I know.
And you could say, oh, people got tired of listening to you, but I was selling 1 million books every year after that for 8 years, maybe even 2 million. Every year, 1 million books. And yet never invited on a show.
What was this to do with the FDA?
No, that came
closing you
later.
down?
That
That
was
came
just that's
later.
when 2008 when they shut down my, I've got wellness books as well, and that's what shut that down. So I took all my wellness videos off of YouTube. There's a few left, but and I closed down my store. I used to sell all the supplements that people
I
can get
know.
better with.
I
And
know.
also I was class action sued as well by a crooked lawyer, and I won. But there's the hassle of it, somebody trying to make money off of you. And I settled. I just said I don't want to bother with this, and just gave him a bunch of money. It's a very, very tricky thing giving advice for health now, and
It's
then
they're hammering wellness like nothing on earth. I mean,
yeah.
I personally, I don't know if everybody else can, but I personally can't hashtag the immune system anymore.
Amazing. Yeah, you can't.
Because they need
now
to pretend
you
it's
understand
gone.
this is all being happened by the globalists. You understand the World Economic Forum and all that. Okay, good.
Yeah. Oh, yes, I know exactly. I'm wide awake, John. That's why I wrote the book. That's why I'm doing a podcast. That's why I'm doing, I'm 60 years old next year, and I kind of thought I was going to be retiring. And then it's like, no, you're not doing this on my fucking watch. What can I do?
But you're right in tune with at your age. I have a book called How to Get What You Want What You Have. And I talk about every 7 years, our primary need pops up. And the Chinese, they have that show where they spin plates and they spin a plate and then it wobbles. As we get older, we get a new plate and we have to keep everything going. And at your age, the plate you need is politics, the world. See, you're expanding out more and more. You start out as a child, it's all about me, what I need. Then it's starting to shift around relationships, caring more about the world. And then outside of your country, global politics. And you just need to hear it. You need to hear it and you need to react to it. Otherwise,
I just don't know. I just don't know how to get it out, John, because, they're hammering all of us that try and say anything.
Yeah. I took a whole bunch of anyway. So this is back even in the year 2000. I was hammered. One is I paid for a documentary for 9/11. That was their first deception. That one, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
What they did there is that's all warm up. They're all psyops. The psyop is let's get them to see something fearful over and over and over. They showed that again and again and again and started a whole war based on fear and believing a lie. You see, that didn't really happen the way people think it happened. Okay. It wasn't a planned, it was a planned demolition. And who did it?
Yeah.
All right. We don't have to go there. Just knowing that can't happen in reality from a fire on the floor. It's impossible. The thousands of engineers have signed a letter saying their story is impossible. It wasn't brought down by the buildings. It was brought down by planned demolition. So when you got a whole country and a world to a certain extent, but more in America, people believing a lie means it disconnects your ability to know what is true. We're connected to the pineal gland, to our higher self. And anytime you believe a lie, you're not connecting to what's true. So you're weakening your connection to the divine by believing a lie. And then you had this whole ridiculous COVID deception, expansion, hiding the solutions. It's just, and I tell you, you've had the experience of, if you find a person who's totally convinced of everything in the news, you try to talk to them, they can't hear a word.
No, my niece has now got a very bad heart disease. And I suggested to her mum, she's, I don't know, how old is she, 50? I suggested to her mum that it might be related. And she was so angry with me. And she went, don't be so stupid. That was months ago. And just absolutely blinkered. And yet she's cut from the same cloth as me. We're growers' daughters. We grew up on the land. We know the connection to nature. She swims in the North Sea every day. But when it comes to this, they're completely blinkered.
They're 6 years old. They believe their parents, and their parents are lying to them. That's what it is. It's a childlike.
But my parents weren't like that. My father was vaccine damaged in World War II. He was in India during World War II. And I've read his letter, and loads of them, where he said he'd never been the same since he had the inoculation for the plague. And he came back with what was classed as Parkinson's disease, which a lot of the Air Force came back from World War II with Parkinson's disease because they were all given this inoculation.
Amazing. My client, right before talking to you, her mother, she tried to convince her, please don't take the vaccination. She took the vaccination, and a week later she died. My accountant, I'm going to see my accountant, and he's got double masks on. He won't be in the same room as me. He's standing in the hallway while I'm talking to him. I say, is this all for my protection? He says, no. And he's kind of angry. And he says, my wife just took the vaccination and she almost died. So I can't bring it home to her. I understand he's in fear. And he's also they'll be getting another vaccination, a booster. It was the booster. It's kind of like, oh, the booster did that. Well, next time I'll get the booster because it's insane.
Yeah,
it's insane.
There's that great meme going around. What is it? Oh, do you remember when they took that vaccine? It didn't work, so they took another one, and it didn't work. So they took another one, and it didn't work, and then they just all died. It's like,
well, it didn't work, so let me take it again.
Yeah, I tell you a conversation I do want to have on the podcast, and I don't know whether this is, obviously the meditation one is really important to me, and I'm very grateful for that. But I do want to talk to somebody about how this corruption started within the medical profession, how it went so completely wrong, 100 years ago with the Carnegie Foundation and the
whole, and the Ford, all the oil guys. No, that's not my thing. I can't.
No,
I
know.
I know all that stuff, but I'm not gonna.
Yeah. No, I know.
My fans are in one camp and the other camp. I'm a world thing.
I know.
But still, I came out with the COVID thing. But anyway, just so you know, the reason I was canceled primarily was not that was later when I went to the supplements. It was that I was too big talking about gender differences, because the narrative since the 70s trying to neutralize male-female energies.
Yes,
because they want to enslave us all, break down the family unit. You're not going to make babies.
Yes,
and they've been working on this a long time. And then the whole drug part of it is to make everybody get sicker and sicker and sicker to where they're dependent on drugs, and then they can finally vaccinate everybody and then have the big kill off.
Yeah.
Okay, crazy.
It's just I just can't. I wrote on my bedroom wall 8 years ago, I will bring down Big P and Big A. But I thought we had like another 10 years. I had no idea that this was going to happen this quickly.
It's happening so fast, but they pushed it too fast. In America, everybody's going to vote for Republicans. They'll be good for a little while, and then they'll get really corrupt. And then they go back and forth because they're all the same party.
Yeah.
I got another call I got to take. So nice.
It's been lovely. Thank you so much. That has just been such a pleasure. Bless you. Thank you, John.
Mine too. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.